Welcome back to the Badass Literature Society, where badasses come together to rate and review novels recommended by you. Hi, I'm Michael.
This is Barbara.
And I'm Lauren. This month we read The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. We read this book to celebrate Latin Heritage Month.
Zoraida Cordova is the author of many fantasy novels for kids and teens, including the award-winning Brooklyn Brujas series, Incendiary, and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, A Crash of Fate. Her short fiction has appeared in the New York Times bestselling anthology Star Wars From a Certain Point of View, Star Wars The Clone Wars, Stories of Light and Dark, Come On In, 15 stories about immigration and finding home, and Toil and Trouble, 15 tales of women and witchcraft. She is the co-editor of the best-selling anthology Vampires Never Get Old. Her debut middle-grade novel is The Way to Rio Luna. She is the co-host of the podcast Deadline City with Danielle Clayton. Zoraida was born in Ecuador and raised in Queens, New York. When she isn't working on her next novel, she's planning a new adventure. Barbara, you want to tell us a little about the book itself?
Yes, so this was originally published on September 7th of 2021. It is considered fantasy and magical realism, and it is 336 pages. And it currently has a 4 out of 5 on Goodreads, a 4.5 on Barnes & Nobles, a 4.4 on Amazon, and a 4.5 on Audible. And it has been nominated for the Goodreads Choice Award for Fantasy in 2021, and as of this recording, it hasn't won any awards. So we think it's important for readers to know what, if any, representation is in the books we read. So for this book, all main characters are POC. There is one LGBTQ plus character and no characters with disabilities.
All right. Lauren, you want to give us a short summary of the book?
Yes. So the Montoyas are used to a life without explanations. They know better than to ask why the pantry never seems to run low or empty, or why their matriarch won't ever leave their home in Four Rivers, even for graduations, weddings, or baptisms. But when Orquídea Divina invites them to her funeral and to collect their inheritance, they hope to learn the secrets that she has held on to so tightly their whole lives. Instead, Orquídea is transformed, leaving them with more questions than answers. 7 years later, her gifts have manifested in different ways for Marimar, Ray, and Tatinelly's daughter, Rhiannon, granting them unexpected blessings. But soon, a hidden figure begins to tear through their family tree, picking them off one by one as it seeks to destroy Orquídea's line. Determined to save what's left of their family and uncover the truth behind their inheritance, the 4 descendants travel to Ecuador, to the place where Orquídea buried her secrets and broken promises and never looked back.
So, what did you think about The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina? And remember, no spoilers. Orquídea Divina.
I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed all the characters and how the story slowly unraveled throughout the book. I loved the magic, as it was so different from normal fantasy-style magic as well.
I also really enjoyed the book. I thought the characters were all really interesting. I found that this book to be one that was hard to put down. For once, I finished it before anybody else did, which doesn't happen very often, unless it's a book like that I pick. But this one, I flew through. I really liked it. Like Barbara said, I also liked the magic. I thought it was really neat, the way that they incorporated the system. And I hadn't really thought about it until we just went through this, but like the genre, the magical realism is perfect because it's so rooted in real life, but also has that touch of magic. It was really good. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I will say maybe it was a little slower for me at the beginning, but I got into it pretty quickly. I mean, maybe like a fourth of the way in, and I was interested. It did give me Encanto vibes, and we won't get into that yet, but because maybe have some spoilers or whatever. But I was seeing a lot of those vibes, and I thought that was cool with the magic. I really liked the culture, and reading about that I thought was cool.
So obviously we're not going to go on to our individual ratings at this point. We've got to wait for that till the end. But our group score for this book was a 7.6 out of 10. Fun decimals. Technically 7.6 repeating.
Oh.
But,
Do you want it to be a 7.7?
If you round it up, yeah.
No.
So would you recommend this book? For me, I think yes, I would. It's another one of many books. I feel like every time we talk about these fantasy books that are a little more on the realistic side, it's one that's easy to recommend to people because it's genre breaking, and this is definitely one of those. I really can't think of many people I wouldn't recommend this book to, because I think even if you're adamantly anti-fantasy for whatever reason, there's still something for you to like in this book because it's rooted enough in realism that you can still enjoy the story.
See, I think that there are people I wouldn't recommend it for just because it is a little out there in some aspects. But overall, I would recommend it. I think most of the people that I interact with would enjoy it.
So, I think it's just enough fantasy for people who normally don't read that genre to enjoy it, and the story is engaging and there's enough mystery to keep you reading, which I was not expecting this to be kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
I was going to say murder mystery, but I wasn't sure if that's giving it away. But
yeah.
In the beginning it says people are dying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I said I couldn't put this down. Like, literally, when we were reading this book, it was like when I had free time, that's what I was doing, was reading this book. It was,
Which he rarely does.
It's true. For those of you leaving us at this point, don't forget to give us a rating if you like the show, especially on Apple Podcasts. That really helps our show be discovered by more people. So if you do like the show, give us a rating and a review there. And make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram. Both places our handle is @BadassLitPod. We'd love to hear from you. If there's a book you want us to read, let us know. Now for a short preview of our next episode. Next month we are reading Big Summer by Jennifer Weiner, which was recommended to us by Joyce on Facebook. Lauren, you want to give us a little preview?
Sure. So, Big Summer, the synopsis for that is, 6 years after the fight that ended their friendship, Daphne Berg is shocked when Drew Kavanaugh walks back into her life, looking as lovely and successful as ever, with a massive favor to ask. Daphne hasn't spoken one word to Drew in all this time. She doesn't even follow her ex-best friend on social media. So when Drew asks if she will be her maid of honor at the society wedding of the summer, Daphne is rightfully speechless. Drew was always the one who had everything, except the ability to hold on to friends. Meanwhile, Daphne's no longer the same self-effacing sidekick she was back in high school. She's built a life that she loves, including a growing career as a plus-size Instagram influencer. Letting glamorous, seductive Drew back into her life is risky, but it comes with an invitation to spend a weekend in a waterfront Cape Cod mansion. When Drew begs and pleads and dangles the prospect of cute single guys, Daphne finds herself powerless as ever to resist her friend's siren song. A sparkling novel about the complexities of female friendship, the pitfalls of living out loud and online, and the resilience of the human heart. Big Summer is a witty, moving story about family, friendship, and figuring out what matters most.
Definitely Michael's
cup of tea.
You can see this is definitely something that's been on my TBR list for since it came out.
This is like my kind of book, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. I like a rom-com. I like a romance story. I like a chick lit, which seems very true to the chick lit category.
That's the first genre that is attributed to this book is chick lit.
Chick lit. Mm-hmm. Well, the only thing missing is it takes place in wintertime and we'd be golden.
No, it takes place in a Cape Cod mansion, Barbara. It's
it's
beach
called
read.
Big Summer, so it's technically a beach read. I'm just saying for like purposes of when we're going to be reading this.
Yeah.
No.
I think it did make quite a few of like the top lists, though.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking forward to it, everyone.
I think it's definitely a Lauren-made book. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. Maybe it'll surprise us.
Sometimes they do. Remember, the second part of this episode is an in-depth look at the book, so if you want to read it, stop listening right now and come back when you're done.
Hey, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Claire. We're the hosts of Fictional Hangover Podcast.
Fictional Hangover is a podcast about young adult and new adult books, series, authors, and voice actors that is full of spoilers.
New episodes are released every Wednesday. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on fictionalhangover.com.
Remember, the only cure for a fictional hangover is another book. Now, back to the episode.
Now, for those of you sticking around for the spoilers, here we go.
Diving in.
So, let's start where we always start. The Badass Character Award goes to...
Marimar. For Michael, it's Michael. So
yeah, Michael gives nominated himself.
Mine is Marimar.
Same. Self-explanatory badass.
She's, I feel like, the one who kind of took the helm and kind of steered the family into it and was the one who took care of the house after the fact. And
you picked Marimar, Lauren?
Agreed.
I think Orquídea, I didn't actually nominate myself. Orquídea is who I would pick for this. I'm not going to win because I already know you guys have the majority, but especially because the novel is split between modern day or current time and then
her story.
Orquídea when she was a younger woman. And I think there's a lot there that explains why she's the way she is, but there's a lot that she had to overcome in her life. And
it's true.
I think there's definitely some badassery there with Orquídea.
I agree, but I think she kind of flubbed a bit as well. I feel like her fear is what led her to having issues with her family as well. So that's why I didn't give it to her.
That's why you picked Marimar?
Yeah.
They're both badasses, but
yeah, they
I
are.
would pick
they
Marimar
are.
over.
I just think, like, if you look at both of them, Marimar had the same shot as her grandma, but took the different route. If that makes sense. Like what is the word I'm looking for when you compare like two characters and this is like, you know what I'm saying?
Parallels? No?
Yes. Yeah,
they're
parallels.
like
I think they're parallel characters. Orquídea is I don't know. I just feel like she kind of led sometimes with fear.
No.
Especially when she made a promise to the living star and then kind of screwed him over.
Yeah.
Oops, daisy.
So the badass character award goes to Marimar. Let's talk about the characters specifically a little bit, though, and give a little backstory or background. We'll start with Orquídea. Lauren, you want to give us a little background on Orquídea?
Orquídea is the matriarch of the family. And, I mean, what do you want to know? She is...
I want a full, complete summary.
So then you're going to have to say
she's one of the main characters.
She's like one of the...
She's the one that we get a point of view of only as far as when we go back to the past, her story. Right. She
becomes a tree.
Yeah. I think she's the one who starts the whole magical stuff. Mm-hmm. She makes a deal with the river monster, and then you kind of see her story progress through all that, and the reason why things are happening to the family is because of her.
Right. Both good and bad things.
Yeah.
And she was karma of her past.
Exactly. She's the reason her family's a bit, what's a nice way of saying, pissed off at her.
Yeah.
Because she made a deal so she couldn't say anything, and it kind of, honestly, I think, not ruined her family dynamics, but it kind of did because of that.
There was a lot of frustration from her children, especially.
Grandkids and stuff.
Rightfully so.
You can feel the frustration, and then when she was passing away, they were all kind of, it was like bittersweet for them, I think.
Yeah. That's a little bit about Orquídea. Marimar is the next character, and she's, I think, arguably the main character of this book.
Yeah.
You could say it's both of them, because you get a fair amount of POV from Orquídea as well.
Well, it's third person, so it's not...
Right. Sure, I guess that's true. It's not first person point of view.
It's not first person. It's third person, but you get Marimar, Ray, and a little of Tatinelly.
Yeah. I just think I feel like you get more Marimar than any of the other grandkids. But she's a really interesting character. She's one of Orquídea's grandkids.
Yes.
Her mother has passed away. She doesn't know who her dad is.
It's one of the mysteries.
It's one of the mysteries that Orquídea can't tell her or refuses to tell her.
She refuses to tell her, but it's because she can't, I think.
There's a good portion of the book after Orquídea dies that's kind of Marimar digging around the house trying to find any hints.
Fun fact, this book does take place over 7 years, and Michael did not pick up on that, even though they mention it multiple times that it takes place.
Definitely didn't, yeah.
There's time jumps in the book for the present part of the book, and Michael's like, I don't know, they didn't even say how long it is. I was like, and then every time I got to a part where it said, I was like, here it is, Michael. Yeah. Here it is again, and here's some more.
She would take it upon herself to come find me wherever I was in our house and say, and then 7 years later, I'm like, oh, dang it, okay, fine.
I didn't pick up on it either.
Oh,
as
you
often.
didn't?
I mean, I knew that there were time jumps, but I didn't.
I knew there was a time jump as well, but I didn't know there was a specific. Like, it wasn't... I didn't realize it was given. Mm-hmm. Barbara made it very clear that it was.
Well, because I'm one of those people, I like the timeline. I like to know the timeline of things. So I asked Michael, I was like, hey, like, do you know what the timeline is? He's like, no, they don't really say. It's like, there's some time jumping, but I'm not really sure how much. And then I was like, well, they do, actually. Quite often.
So Marimar is one of Orquídea's grandkids. She's the one who gets the house in the Four Rivers.
Yeah. She's also one of the three that gets... So all of them got seeds, but they're the only ones who got an actual flower on them, right? Mm-hmm. Is that how I took it? Or do all of them have the seeds?
All of them got the seed. Because remember, what was the grumpy son's name?
I don't know.
He threw his into the fire.
Right, but did Marimar, Ray, and Ree get seeds as well? Or because I thought their seeds were the flowers
that were growing.
I
think that came out of the seed, right?
She touched it in the seed, the flower.
Oh, that's right. So maybe that's what it was then. That was their equivalent of their seed, is they got the flower.
Yeah. So, but Marimar's is the one that's on her clavicle.
But it never bloomed.
It never bloomed unless she was like threatened or something, or maybe not even clavicle, like on her throat.
On her throat, and her neck or something.
Yeah, her neck.
But that's a little bit about Marimar. We'll get into more of the details later as we talk about some of the specific questions. But the other, arguably main character, I guess, is Ray, who's another grandchild. You want to give us a little bit about Ray?
Yeah, so him and Marimar are really, they're the closest, I think, between all the grandkids. he was a very successful accountant. Is that what it was? An accountant? So. But that's not what his love was. He actually wanted to be an artist. But then when Orquídea died, she made him promise to, like, follow his dreams. And so he did. He became a successful artist. But I can't figure out if he loved doing it or, I don't know. He had, like, a boyfriend. His boyfriend was kind of poohead, but not really. And it was, like, a whole thing, like, with them. But I think
he embodied a lot of the motif of the tortured artist. Like there was passion there, but also pain from the process. And he sometimes got so into it that it was like he would lock himself in his room for days.
But it is something he enjoyed doing. His flower was on his, what is this part of your hand called?
Like your...
Between your thumb and pointer finger.
Yeah, so his rose, I believe his was a rose, was on there. I just remember the scene where, like, who does this? First off, some rando girl comes up to him and is like, is that real? And, like, pulls on the petal. I'm like, who does that? Like, I don't care what it is, but, like, you don't just touch people without asking.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an interesting scene. But
like coming up and pulling your hair, like, is this real?
Or like if you're pregnant and those people randomly come up to you, like, oh my gosh, and like touches your belly.
Oh,
like,
people do that.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I just feel like that's really, like, that doesn't give you permission to touch people.
No.
So
that's when you say, I'm not pregnant.
Right.
And then they feel really uncomfortable.
That's Ray in the snapshot. Next is Tatinelly. Tatinelly is one of the other grandkids, right? She's slightly older.
No, she's the youngest.
Was she the youngest?
Well,
she's younger than
Marimar is the youngest.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I thought Tatinelly was the
in between Ray and
Marimar.
Because they each were born from different children. Like, none of them are siblings. Right. They're all cousins.
So Tatinelly was one of the other grandkids. She is married to a white man. A white man. Yeah.
No.
And her story was definitely one of the sadder arcs that we...
Well, no, but, like, she always wanted, I think, all of them wanted different things. Marimar didn't know what she wanted. Ray wanted to be an artist. He finally became that. Mm-hmm. She literally just wanted a family. That's what she wanted.
And she got a family.
To have children and that kind of a thing. And that's what she gets. I think hers was, out of all their stories, I think hers was the least sad in the sense that she actually, from day one, knew what she wanted and got what she wanted.
True. I was just thinking because she still died. But
well, I understand that, but like...
If you're still listening, spoilers.
Well, they already knew
We are
that.
in the spoiler section.
Yeah, but like she literally used her gift to protect her family, like her loved ones, and that's all she ever wanted was, you know, like her literal love protected her
sad
family.
For her daughter that both her and her husband died.
Yeah. I didn't quite understand why the hell the husband died.
Yeah,
like it was just like he wasn't allowed to come into the Latin world and they just killed him off. I don't know. I haven't quite figured it out.
Yeah, it seemed like whenever he got like deathly sick.
Well, yeah. I'm not quite sure.
His
like,
skin turned like translucent.
Did you guys figure that out? Like, did he touch something? Because it was like as soon as they landed in the house, he
in
was
Ecuador, right?
Yeah, he got sick and bedridden.
Yeah. The only thing I thought of was that like he wasn't a part of the family, like, or he was
that's
an outsider or something.
Right, maybe he didn't have like the family protection, and then that evil dude like cursed those lands or something. So as soon as he landed there.
That was my thought.
You know, I kind of wanted to Google that and figure that one out, but yeah, I wasn't quite sure, like, what did he contract? Because even the doctors couldn't figure out. And then he, like, busted out in, like, creepy...
Translucent skin.
Grasshoppers.
Yes.
Came out of him.
Yeah, the grasshoppers.
Grasshoppers.
The see-through skin is what creepy.
I actually thought that was real cool. I pictured it. I was like, woo, you can see all his organs. Maybe just me.
All right, and then Rhiannon is Tatinelly's daughter. And another magical member of the family. She'd be Orquídea's great-granddaughter. Mm-hmm. Barbara, you want to tell us a bit more about Rhiannon?
So I feel like out of everyone, she's the most connected to nature. Like, she talks to plants and flowers and animals. Like, everything communicates to her, and she's able to understand. She's the only one who's able to understand tree version of Orquídea, I believe, right? She's the only one who can talk to her that way. She has, like, magical dreams. She's, like, I think the most fantasy-esque character. Think of like Disney princess who can talk to all the
animals. And in a traditional sense, she definitely is the most fantasy.
I think she's the most like magic touch from all of them. I'm trying to think, where is her flowers on her forehead? Mm-hmm. So her flowers on her forehead, At first, when they said that they had flowers, literal flowers on them, I thought it was metaphorically. I didn't realize it was literally flowers on their heads, or
I thought it was
like
a
wherever
tattoo,
it was.
kind of a...
Yeah, I didn't realize it was
Not like
an
something
actual
growing
blooming.
out, yeah.
Yes,
Right, not like literally a growing,
Correct.
living thing.
Correct. So that's her. She's very good natured and.
Next is Pedro Bolivar Londoño III.
Yes.
Daunting name.
The kindest character in the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's so sweet.
By a long shot.
Real sweetheart.
He's the actual bad guy without you realizing.
You don't realize he's the big bad until much later in the book. But
Unless you picked up on it, I guess.
Londoño is Orquídea's first husband,
Mm-hmm.
father of her first child who died.
Never made it, yeah.
And yeah, as Barbara said, the big bad. That you don't find out he's the big bad who's been... Because throughout the book later on, there's something that's hunting and killing members of
Did
the
Barbara
family.
know he was the big bad?
I didn't expect it to be him until...
You thought it was the star, right?
No, I didn't. I thought it was going to be another character, and I wasn't quite. I haven't. No, because when you meet the star, he isn't. He doesn't project this evilness about him. You know, he's just a very neutral character,
No.
and actually a little bit
Londoño
good.
wasn't evil either. He was just kind of a d-bag.
No, he was.
He was a crappy man, but he wasn't.
Sure.
He wasn't he wasn't evil, and that's like you getting like bad vibes.
Yeah,
Like he's gonna kill your family.
when I got bad vibes was the fact when during a past scene where she was saying that like she went out with her friends and this dude was hitting on her and he was all up in arms and he got pissed and like broke the dude's neck or not neck. Like,
Whoa.
Whoa.
well, I think he ended up in the hospital
He did, yeah.
and then they had to like bail him out of jail. And once that kind of scene happened, I was like, huh. I wonder if he's the one that is kind of chasing them or something's going on with his character. But yeah, he's the one who finds the magic, the living star, as a small child. He's the one who decides to lock him. What is the word I'm looking for? Keep him in chains. Bind him. He's the one who binds him. He's the one who uses the magic for his own gains.
For his circus.
And for him in general.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, the reason why he's such a man whore is because of the wishes he's made, correct? Like, that's kind of the trade-off is the fact that he can't
resist.
love. No, he can't love.
Yeah.
He literally is kind of like Voldy in the sense that he can't love. He doesn't know what that means because of how he uses the magic. That's, yeah. For some reason, I thought, like, he wouldn't be super old, but, like, it's kind of funny to see, like, an old man trying to, like, beat you up, you know?
Yeah.
Like, when I thought he was, you know, when you figured out it's him, I thought he was going to be younger because he was pulling the magic. I didn't realize that didn't keep him alive in that kind of a sense. I pictured him, like, how Orquídea had met him, but I was like, it's an old man. I was like, oh, just beat him with his walking stick.
Old but alive. But no, he was the ringmaster of the circus, and that's how Orquídea meets him, because she runs away from home and literally joins the circus.
Literally, yes. As one does back then.
Yeah.
He's suave, good-looking, all the things, but he's just an asshole.
Total, yeah. Like, when she tells him that she's pregnant with his child, he runs off and sleeps with one of the other.
Ugh. It's interesting scenes with him. Michael's favorite scenes.
No.
Yeah. Wasn't that like a... Never mind.
Sexual by nature, is that what you mean?
This is a clean podcast, right?
Is it? Okay, so I shouldn't talk about that scene.
No, we shouldn't. Ever. And the last character we'll talk about here is the Living Star, which we've talked about a little bit already. But the Living Star is the magic that Pedro Bolivar Londoño has captured for his circus and uses both for the show to make it more spectacular and in his personal life.
To make his life spectacular.
Make his life more spectacular because the Living Star gives him literal wishes.
He's literally a star, by the way.
Literally a star.
Literally a star.
And so we learn a little bit about him and that he's been held captive by Londoño as part of a circus.
So sad.
And he was a kid, because I think he was like 10 when he found it.
Yeah. And then Orquídea finds him, and they make a deal that he will help her get away from Londoño, and in exchange...
No, that's not the deal. She just wanted a bit of his magic, and it was supposed to be a temporary magic, like, for a few years. She was going to use it to escape from him.
Right.
If she unchained him and kept him away from Bolivar, or not kept him away, but...
From Londoño, yeah.
Servitude.
So then because Orquídea takes too much of his magic, he's not able to get away, and ends up being stuck with Londoño, and as you find out much, much later in the book... the living star is
technically the one coming after them, but
only
only
because of
Bolivar
he's being
is
ordered.
making him. Yeah.
Yes. And he's also Marimar's dad,
Yes.
the mysterious father.
Yes, because Marimar's mom falls in love with him when he kind of escaped for a little bit from Bolivar during a period of time.
Yep.
And they fell in love.
And then, but yeah, you find out Bolivar is actually the big bad guy, and he's using the living star to try to find Orquídea and her family and
Kill them.
kill them all.
Because he's a jealous man who,
Yep.
God forbid, she married 8 other men after him.
Or something like that. Yeah.
She married quite a few dudes.
But yeah, that's the gist of this living star, and that's...
Do we think that Orquídea knew that it was Bolivar that was after her? Because it kind of seemed like she didn't realize that. She thought it was the living star because she screwed him over, and she knew she screwed him over. Because that's kind of the
So I kind of got...
feeling that I got.
I got the vibe that she knew it was... I think she thought it was both of them. I think she thought that Bolivar was controlling.
I think she didn't know up until her daughter fell in love with the living star, and then she realized it wasn't him that was after her. It was Bolivar through him. Because up until that point, I don't think she knew, because she knew that she screwed up, and he was going to be mad at her for stealing more magic than what was promised to her.
Makes sense that the book definitely sets it up to make you think that it is just the star working by himself to come after her. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that's our little character summary. So what for you guys, what was the biggest surprise as you read this book?
The audacity of Bolivar. That was my biggest surprise.
I think that's probably gonna be everybody's answer.
Like this bro.
The audacity.
Seriously, like he thought it was okay for him to do all the crap things that he did, but God forbid Orquídea wants to divorce him essentially and leave his ass, and be with another dude who actually treats her well. Like he's okay to do all that crap, but he's ownership. That's the love of ownership. Like he doesn't truly love her. It's possessive, and I'm not about that lifestyle.
Because that scene you were talking about before, like he gets mad at her because someone else is flirting at her.
No, he gets mad at the dude, but yes, a little bit at her, even though she didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. But yeah, it's a possessive love that he has for her, and that was my biggest surprise.
As far as shock value goes, sorry, I know it's your turn, but I felt like her becoming a tree was pretty surprising to me.
That's true.
Like a physical tree.
Literally.
Like not just like a metaphorical tree, like, oh, my family tree, whatever. No, like, bitch is a tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of like, oh, like spread my ashes or make my ashes into a tree type thing. No. When they see her, she literally was like half already into a tree. Yes. Which I thought was really cool to picture. Like,
no, it was
person
definitely
turned
cool.
into a tree.
It was just really surprising to me. I was like, oh, is this a metaphor? Nope, it's not.
Yep. Nope. And that's kind of where the magical realism starts. Because before that, it was like hinted at.
Yeah.
But like they're like, oh, crazy grandma with her delivering of birds instead of like normal snail mail type thing. And then you're like, okay. And then it gets to that scene, you're like, oh, okay.
So I think just to add something different, I'll say that it was Living Star being Marimar's dad.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mystery of that is definitely played out throughout the book, and you meet the Living Star, but I did not make the connection that was dad.
I did because of the photo.
Much
later.
It
said he was always too bright and you couldn't see him. I was like, well, that's how she describes the living star, so I figured it was him.
I didn't. Barbara always predicts this stuff, though, so...
I don't. It's just she dropped the hint on that one.
Once Orquídea has created the home of her dreams, she is deliberate with the protection she ritualistically put on the house in Four Rivers.
It's Orquídea.
Aside from the magical reasons why she pressed the gold leaf floral leaves into the shutters, why else might she feel the need to make this as safe a space as possible? I mean, I think that as the story unfolds, it makes more and more sense why she feels like she needs to, because at first it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, you think maybe... Like, your first inkling is maybe she thinks she needs to protect herself from her family that she ran away from. And it was a German man, right?
Yeah.
That her mother married. Because she didn't want them to be able to find her. And then, obviously, you find out later on that she's actually probably using this stuff to protect herself from the Living Star and, by proxy, Bolivar. Because she's magically protected them in the sense that whatever she's done and spell she's cast, they can't find her. Like, they can't detect her and through magical means. So that's, I think, the...
Did they explain why the gold leaf floral? Like, why that particular thing?
Think
or is that something we should Google to see, like, that's a protection as it is and should just integrate it into
That's probably
the story?
like I bet that's a cultural thing.
Yeah. I was just curious about that.
Yeah, I don't remember her saying anything specific about
it. Right. Like, why that not just, like, a random leaf, you know?
Yeah. I agree, though. I feel like she probably was attempting to protect herself and kind of hide from all of the darker side of the magic that she had dealt with. And that was kind of her way of, like Michael said, just being, like, undetectable to karmic stuff that she was dealing with.
Yeah, I think it was twofold. I feel like she never had a place where she felt safe until she created this little home for her and her family or future family members. And then I feel like she also knew that she had gone back on her word and taken way too much of the magic because it was supposed to just be a short while, not for the rest of their lives, and even then some for the rest of her family members. It was supposed to be, I think he even said, like, 5 years or something like that, because he even joked with her, was like, don't come crawling back to me when you want more magic after you're used to it. And she's like, haha, no. And then it's like, whoopsie daisy.
Yeah.
So I think it's that, because he even says, like, every magic has a cost, and I feel like she is running away from the cost, essentially.
Yeah.
The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina is categorized... Orquídea Divina is categorized as magical realism, but there are rules, almost laws of nature, to the magic infused in the Montoyas story. What are they, and what is the price they each have to pay?
Quite the long question there, eh?
That is a long question. So, the laws of nature, I mean, so for some of them, the price that they had to pay was, like, dying, right?
Yeah. Does laws of nature mean just because it's, like, bending, literally the laws of nature where you can't, there's no magic in our world, and so because what is the word I'm looking for? We brought this magic into the world, it's trying to reavert
against
itself
nature.
into... Yeah, is that what that means by laws of nature?
I think that's saying, like, so, like, the laws of nature are things that can't be changed. Like, that's the way it is. Like, gravity is gravity.
Okay.
And so it's saying that, like, the rules for their magic and this magical realism that exists for the Montoyas is the same as laws of nature. It's like, it is what it is. There's no changing it. It's... Yes, there's this magic, but there's also this cost, and it's always going to be that. There's no way to avoid it.
Okay.
And I think that's I guess I'll answer the question.
Answer your question, Michael.
I think that's what this is talking about here, is that for the longest time throughout the whole story, you find out that Orquídea has taken this magic and used this magic, but has been trying to avoid the cost for all these years.
Running from it, really.
Running from the cost of it, right, and trying to break the rule or the laws of nature in this case.
And then her family pays for her
Yeah,
mistakes.
Her family pays for it too, and
that's the whole reason why she can't say anything, right? Or is
Correct.
it because if she says something, they can find her?
both.
Oh yeah, both.
Do you think it's both? Yeah.
It's if she says something, they can find her, and if they find her, then she's got to pay.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to pay.
Well, I feel
but she's paying with her family.
She's paying that, and all her hubbies always seem to die, like, tragically, and it's none of her, like, she didn't do anything. It's because at first I thought, I was like, ooh, it's going to be a murder mystery where, like, she's secretly the one who's, like, murdering her husbands, but they all die really young and for inexplicable, like, random reasons.
Yeah, that's
which is funny because I think that's what she paid for, part of it in secrecy too, but part of it is because all she ever wanted was a loving spouse, and I feel like she gets those, but only for, like, snippets of time, you know. Because that's all she wanted was a big old family, since her family kind of sucked bones.
So I think that's the whole thing in this question, is just there's a cost to be paid, just like there is with everything else in life. Like, there's the laws of nature apply here, and she was trying to avoid those for the longest time.
That's
and
just
eventually
her, though. What about the other ones?
Caught up to her.
Yeah.
Outside of her?
I mean,
this is mostly talking about her magic.
No, it's not.
But you're right.
They each have to pay. You wrote the question.
Infusing the Montoyas.
Yeah.
So Ray gets his magic, and I think part of what he ends up getting is the ability to create this amazing art, and not only create this amazing art, but be able to become a successful artist. But the cost of that is some of the things that he doesn't really want to pay, which is maybe this partner that he's got that initially seems to be kind of using him for the connection to the art scene and the fame and stuff that comes along with that. And so that's the cost that Ray has to pay, is that he has this life that he always wanted, but at the same time he has this life that he never really did want, and they're clashing. For Marimar, it's similar. She, one of the things that she had always kind of lacked in her life was love, especially like romantic love and companionship and something like that. And she finally finds that in Four Rivers with one of the other men who lives in town, and then
I didn't think she loved him.
I think she was getting there, and the cost of the magic there is that she scared him away because her magic with the first
She pushed him away. She didn't scare him away. He came back after the whole ER scene happened, and she was the one who's like, "You need to stop coming." Over. Because
of that, though. I mean, that was the crux of the failure in their relationship.
I think hers was she just always wanted to know where she came from and who she was, because she never had that. And then she finally did, and that's where she was happy.
That's another example of the cost of Orquídea's magic.
Yeah.
Orquídea's
magic. And then you can talk about Tatinelly's.
I really did. Like, Tatinelly was literally the one who started out from day one knowing exactly what she wanted, who she was. And she made the ultimate sacrifice in protecting her family. Literally, she beat evil with love. Love that. I love that kind of crap. Like, yes, girl, I'll get it. But unfortunately, she lost her life in doing that.
Yeah.
Was that
that was the cost of her magic.
Yeah, cost of her magic to protect her daughter is to keep her alive. She had to sacrifice
literally
herself.
a life for a life.
Yeah. Yep.
She saved her daughter, but couldn't save herself.
Yeah.
What role does nature play in this novel?
So nature plays a big role because it's basically, I mean, Orquídea has a huge connection with nature. She ends up literally being a piece of nature.
Yeah.
The flowers that grow from them, like, part of magic, but also part nature. Like, I don't know. It's all about, like, there's a lot of different parallels to life and death, which are all natural things. The whole river thing, think of it.
The river monster.
The river monster. Yeah, the river spirit. And the deal that she had with that.
I just feel like it's always been a part of the family because of Orquídea. Like, I feel like connects more with nature than she ever did with other people.
Yeah.
Because she always felt more at home at the river and with her little river monster that she made a deal with than she ever did in her actual family home with her stepfather and half siblings. And she always felt out of place with them, whereas in nature, that's literally where she felt at home.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, like, when she created her home, it was kind of away from everybody else by themselves, and she kind of created this bubble of nature where it's like they had the little lake and spring and, like, all these trees. And before she moved to this location, it was not a very thriving nature. Like, it was kind of dead as far as, like, there wasn't trees around, there weren't really grass, and they kind of described it as very desert-like. And then when she rolled around with her magic, like, she brought that to this location. So I just think it's just literally her connection and their power source is through nature.
I mean, I think nature in a way is the magic in this book, because the magic comes from the living star. The living star was a fallen star originally, which if you just take out the fact that it was a literal man, like, those are all parts of nature.
Yeah.
And so I think that nature plays a huge role in this novel, as far as, like Lauren mentioned, like, everything that's magical can be tied back to nature, whether it's the flowers that bloom out of their bodies or the fact that Orquídea literally becomes a tree. Everything along the road has something to do with nature. And I really liked that, the part that you just mentioned. That was one of my favorite parts of the book, when she moves to, like, this dry, barren place and turns it into, like,
of course, it's in the Midwest.
A veritable oasis. It was really cool to see how she transformed the land over time from this, so where no one wants to be, barren.
Barren landscape to the thriving place that it was for her. And then Marimar kind of turned it back to what it was before, because I think it was dying when Orquídea was dying, because that's the connection there.
Because she was connected to the land.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that this river monster spirit called her, like, a daughter of the ocean, because that's another tie back to her being more nature-based than human-based.
What does the Londoño Spectacular represent for Orquídea, and how does that change as her relationship with Pedro Bolivar Londoño III develops?
Did you not want to
do you mean
do the Londoño Spectacular? At first I was like, am I having a stroke? Is it really doubled like that?
But it really is. That was really the name of the show.
Yeah.
The Londoño Spectacular, which it looks weird when you say it on paper, but when you say it, I mean, actually it's grammatically correct.
Yeah.
But I think...
I know, yeah. So, obviously, when she first saw it, it was her way to escape the family drama and just her family in general. Like, it was, as most people who run away from with the circus, it's freedom. Originally, it was a freedom for her. Like, she found her calling to, not be stuck in one place. She always wanted to travel, and she never got to. And then slowly, as she gets in a relationship with Pedro, it's still, or Bolivar, whatever you want to call him, it turns into that, she's like, oh, this is where I'm meant to be. It's my home. It turned into that. And then slowly it sours for her because all she wants to do after the fact is just leave, escape this place. It turned into her prison at this point, a cage, because of what he did for their relationship and how it made her feel.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's literally she sees it as her freedom, and then she sees it as her family because she's had this really dysfunctional relationship with family, and so then she sees not only Bolivar, but like the entire circus. They're all like one big happy family until he starts sleeping with everybody in the circus. But,
all the other women.
Yes.
But yeah, I think, the way you wrote it perfectly describes it. Like, it was her freedom, and then it became her cage.
I wrote it.
In the notes.
Oh.
It was a very poetic note.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
It was her freedom originally, and then her cage. That's literally what happened. She went from this, it was this beautiful, perfect thing that eventually all she wanted to do was get out.
Such is life sometimes. The things that you think you want and go after are not always what they seem.
Yep. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, you guys covered it.
You're welcome, guys.
Nail on the head.
Well, then you can tell us what you thought of the ending.
I liked it. It was fine. I didn't... Why are you looking at me like that?
As a woman, fine is never really just fine. Tell us how you really feel.
I felt like things tied up. Like, there weren't a whole lot of things that I'm, like, wanting to know more about or feeling like I need a sequel.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like, in a perfect little bow. Would I have liked for not as many people to die? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also feel like that had to happen because, like, that's the price of...
That was the cost
what they agreed on,
Yeah.
So I feel like it... I don't know. I feel like it was fine.
That was the shittiest part of the whole thing. Is like these people were dying based on a decision they had nothing to do with.
Yeah, unfortunately. But that happens a lot. Like, what your grandparents and your parents do really do affect you. And that's
I was going to
just
say
a great
the parallel
example of
sins
that.
of the father.
It's a really good parallel to, like, even, like, generational trauma, too. Like, you are handed, like, the way that you were raised in, like, the situations that your parents have you inherit, and then you either do better or grow differently. But, like, some things you can't. Like this, like, some kids are passed down, like, a whole bunch of debt or, like, a whole bunch of stuff from parents that they don't have any control over, or choices like moving to a new country or, like, putting them in this school or that school. It's a parallel to...
I feel like we had a conversation about this in the last podcast that we did, where it was like, would you make this deal for your kids if it affected them? It's the same thing. Like,
for Dark Matter, is that the...
I don't know if it was Dark Matter.
I think we talked about... No, we did. It was like if you could go back and do things differently. Like,
I don't remember what it was, but I remember that kind of the same thing. Like, knowing if it would affect your future kids or grandkids and stuff like that, would you still make those choices? It's just one of those things where...
Orquídea said, yup.
Yeah. She said YOLO.
She said YOLO. And then she said, I'm going to be a tree, and
she said, bye.
My family is going to hate me because...
She was too secretive. She never was honest with them because she literally couldn't be.
She couldn't be. Yeah.
No, I think it was literally she could not.
Because
she even said it was painful for her to try to even think about it, and then she would not say anything because she literally could not.
And then just like you look back and was that worth it to have your family resent you for so many years because you literally can't be honest with them, and then you're like just miserable.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I don't see how else the book could have ended, to be honest with you, with the way it was moving. Like, I'm happy that I feel like they're finally at peace, literally everyone, dead and undead. Like, they're finally at peace with all of the trauma that happened that she brought to their family was finally resolved, in the sense that they don't have to keep all these secrets from each other. They can actually be a functioning family instead of all this resentment and pent up question, all that, all that trauma that came along with it. And then what I liked, it was kind of cool that, even though they're all have passed away, like, they have family functions, and even the dead family members come as well.
That was really
are
cool.
Involved, and they can still see them and talk to them. So I thought that was really neat. That would be kind of cool.
I really like the ending. I think if it had been any more wrapped up in a perfect bow, I wouldn't have. I liked that his life's not perfect, and I feel like that was one of the biggest messages in this book, is that life's not perfect, nobody's perfect. Sometimes other people have to pay the cost for something someone else in the family did. And so I think it was wrapped up the way that it should. I literally, like Lauren mentioned, I can't think of anything I would change in the ending. I mean, would it be nice if more people survived? Sure, but
Yes.
that would have changed the story.
Definitely.
It wouldn't have been as impactful of a story if that had all just worked out. Like, that's not real. And so yeah, I really liked the ending. I would read other books. I think I'm actually maybe going to get the Star Wars book.
I was going to say,
that she
that's
wrote.
all your jam, Star Wars.
I didn't realize that she wrote all this
She
Star
wrote
Wars.
yeah,
two
she's
Star Wars.
stuff. Yeah.
You actually
I
just
literally
pointed that out
pointed
to me
out
when we were
to
at Barnes
him
& Noble.
today,
Yeah.
Was it on sale?
It sure wasn't.
Sure wasn't. That's another can of worms.
But so the climax of a novel pulls all of our main characters back to Four Rivers, to the base of Orquídea Divina's Seba tree. Why was this the perfect location for their last stand, and what did it mean for the remaining Montoyas to come together once more?
I think it was where Orquídea finally felt at home, like I said, and where she had the family she always wanted. Albeit some caveats there, and the fact that her family essentially hated her for what she did, but you know what? It's still where she liked. So I do think it was what she always wanted and what they wanted, and that's why that was the perfect location, because it's where the family fell apart and where they came back together. Yeah. And they came back together essentially to defeat what was the issue, the cause of the root issue of all of their problems, essentially. And this way it was a man, but I feel like metaphorically it was a bunch of stuff. And that's kind of like the last stand is there. I think it was fitting for it to be there.
I agree. I think that the home in Four Rivers was the only place Orquídea felt like she could keep her family safe. And so it was fitting that that's where...
She did, essentially.
That's where that happened one last time. So yeah, I think that was fitting to have the climax of the book take place.
Yeah. Bolivar was an idiot to think that he could stand, like, a chance there. Yeah. I think he would have won anywhere else, but, like...
I think you're right. Mm-hmm. But they had Orquídeas and all the other ancestors.
Right, it was, like, family. Like, the family actually finally came together as a unit to defeat this creepy old man with...
Yep. Because like you were saying a minute ago, that was one of the coolest things, is to like they have like family dinner with all the living and the dead family all come to the table.
Sorry, we were talking about the flaccid penis. No, I agree.
Penis is
anatomically correct. That's not an explicit thing.
And flaccid is also anatomically correct.
Is
Yep.
It's not an explicit term.
No, it's not.
It's anyway. No, I agree. I think that there wouldn't have been another place for them to go. That just made sense for them to come back to Four Rivers. And like you said, I mean, even though Orquídea was kind of selfish in the sense of like everything that went down, I think that ultimately her protection and the family coming together was what?
The last hurrah.
The last hurrah.
Yeah. It would have been weird, I think, if it was anywhere else besides.
Yeah, right.
It wouldn't have made sense.
No. So with that, let's talk about our individual scores for the book. Barbara, what did you give this one?
I give it an 8. I enjoyed the magic because it was based off of like what not what you normally think is like. There's no flying dragons. It's very nature based and steeped in the culture, and I really enjoyed reading that and experiencing different cultures that have a little bit similar to mine, but just that it was just nice to read that. It wasn't based on European fantasy. It was Latin fantasy, and I'm always down for that. So I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the characters. I know some people were complaining that I read some reviews that they thought it was just too many characters. I was like...
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, well, you obviously didn't grow up in a big family. Like, this is normal. And it's not
You've
even...
never read Game of Thrones.
Right, and I was like, it's not even the, like, normal fantasy where it's like all these characters play a role. Like, most of them were very small side characters just to get you in... to really get you in the family dynamics. They weren't immersed. Thank you. That's the word. I was like doing this hand gesture. Immersed into the family dynamics of the Montoyas. But really, you have to remember like 5 people, if that is really not that much. So I'm not sure why, but that's mine.
I mean, I would say even outside of like Marimar, Orquídea, and Ray, like the rest of the family, you could argue was like an ensemble cast. Like
right.
Like that,
I mean, Tati and her daughter.
Yeah, that's true. They
were
played bigger
a little
roles.
bit, but
But I don't agree.
Yeah, they're like, there's too many people. I was like, oh, sweetie, you haven't read fantasy novels then, where it's like 20 people and they all are very significant to the plot.
Yeah.
Right. So I gave this an 8 out of 10 as well. I really liked it. It was absolutely a page turner. There are no bad things. I thought the length was right. It was a good book.
Yeah.
I gave it a 7, and that's purely just in comparison to some of the other books. It definitely isn't one that I would have just picked out, so I was glad that Barbara found it for us. And I actually really enjoyed it. I didn't know if I would. I thought that the culture was really cool. I thought that the magic based in nature was really cool. Mm-hmm. It had an element of fantasy that wasn't overwhelming to me. Like, it wasn't hard to keep up with, like some fantasy novels are. Yeah, I thought it was good overall. I think that, I mean, I probably could have given it a higher rating, but just because of how I rated other ones, I was like, I guess. I
mean, this is a new season, and we said we would only rate against the things we've currently read in the season.
Oh, that's
There's
true.
only one.
This is the first book, right?
Second
book. Dark Matter was the first one.
Well, maybe I would give it an 8 then. Then we wouldn't have any decimals. But
you heard her. Our group rating is now an 8 out of 10.
It's changed.
It's changed since the beginning of the episode. If you only listen to the first half,
joke's on you, it's wrong.
Right.
There's no fixing it.
I forgot that we were doing it seasonally.
Yeah, seasonally. Because if that's the case, it's so hard to judge against, like, you know, at this point, over 30 books that we've read.
Yeah.
And
it's easier to do it season by season.
4 years that we've been.
No more decimals.
So our group score for this one is an 8 out of 10.
Can I just talk about one of my favorite scenes?
Yes.
Just because of the fact... So it kind of reminded me a bit of, like, Mulan, where she talks to the ancestor, like, they raise up the ancestor. So it's Orquídea's mom, their great-grandma, right? Because it's Tati,
great-grandma.
Ray, and... so it's great-grandma, and they, like... raised her from the dead, essentially, to talk to her and see, like, what is happening with Orquídea, like, can you help us out? And she was like, what'd you bring me? So it's like, you have to offer, you know, respects, and so it's like cigarettes and, and like, food and stuff like that.
Whiskey,
and it just kind of made me cackle, because it was just a funny scene, that she's like, respect your elders and all this stuff, and then, like, Marimar is like, you were a rude bee to grandma, and, like, it's funny, because, like, Marimar is very protective of her grandma, even though she can see her faults, but God forbid anyone else says stuff about her. And she's like, no. I just thought that scene was really funny.
Yeah, it was. That was a good comparison to Mulan, too.
Yeah.
Make sure you're following Badass Literature for free in your favorite podcast app. Give us a rating and leave us a review if they allow you to. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media. Our username is BadassLitPod on Instagram and Facebook.
Have feedback about today's episode? Contact us by writing to badassliteraturesociety@gmail.com. Ugh, I didn't get it as well. That one. Anyways, you can also send us a DM or leave a comment on Instagram or Facebook at the handles that Michael just read to you.
As always, thank you so much for listening. I'm Michael.
I'm Barbara.
And this is Lauren.
Bye.
Wet flaccid penis.
Also, we forgot to mention, if you guys didn't realize, the audio quality is going to be a little different because we're all together.
Yes, took advantage of being all together
for 2 years, since 2 years, because I think we did this 2 years ago too.
We did.
We did.
So yeah, it's going to be a little different than what you guys are used to.
Here we are.
Bye.
I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed all the characters and how the story slowly unraveled throughout the story. I don't know if that makes sense. How the story slowly unraveled throughout the story, throughout the book. Oof. I love the magic, as it was so different from normal fantasy style magic. Jesus, I'm gonna redo that.
I'm gonna have a water now.
Yeah, go for it.
As well as drink. Remember, the second part of this episode is an in-depth look at this book. So if you want to stop reading, or if you want to read it, the last character we'll talk about here is the Living Star, which obviously we've talked a little bit about already.
Mm-hmm. Did you not write down his name? He has an actual name.
I did not.
Fail.
So what is his actual name?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Warren's going to look it up.
Are we going to pause it?
You can't.
I'll cut it.
That's
fine.
I was actually going to type wet flaccid penis.
Like, I don't have my
Keep
copy.
that recording and clip it.
Wet flaccid penis.
Make a remix.
Whenever Lauren makes you mad, you can have it be, hi, I'm Michael, and this is Barbara, and I'm
wet flaccid penis. Oh, wow.
thinking about it.
I said Living Star, Orquídea Divina Living Star character. Nothing's coming up. Why is it me again? I started the last one.
You haven't. You still haven't. You keep kicking it to the next person.
It's because these are really weird questions.
I cut it down to a single sentence.
Albeit. Jeez.
The defeat.
Cries and I don't know how to pronounce words that I've just read.